So they've added...
None of these are legit.
Yeah, they're all legit.
Okay.
You're good. You can just set them.
It's like a horror.
So I actually need to make copies?
That's fine. We will
okay.
make copies.
Yeah, okay.
And that is cool. Just remind me. I just don't want this to go anywhere. Perfect. So, like I said, first we're doing this because of the laws that have changed, and second is because one day I had this wonderful client come in and no one here was able to help her do something so simple as find a number to Community Human Services. And so she left a note on my table, and on Wednesday came in and saw me and started crying hysterically about how nobody could find a number and how she really wanted to be here and get help, and no one was able to help. So really the whole point of today's training is to standardize the way that we provide care. Go away. The way that we provide care to our, I don't know if we want to call them clients, consumers, patients, depending on what they're here for. Clients fine with me. Susie likes to call them travelers because they travel from many places.
It's different.
I don't know.
It's unique.
So we'll call them clients for the sake of simplicity. And so really today is just to make sure that we standardize the way that we approach people whenever problems do arise, that we all have the same sort of resources on hand that we can offer to people, and that services are provided in a consistent manner. That's that. So you have two things. The first is, we'll get into the handouts later, but the big one, this is your PowerPoint presentation, which we will go off of. This goes hand in hand with the manual. Okay. And I want to make this not painful, as least painful as possible. So if you just want to go around, I'll paraphrase some of the pages and we can read some stuff together. Let's start on slide number 2. So the mission. So the mission of Service Access for You, we'll be using SAY as the acronym for Service Access for You. So mission of Service Access for Youth is to provide opportunities for education, services, and empowerment in a respectful, non-judgmental environment for young people experiencing homelessness. SAY is a collaboration, and so that line that is underlined for a very big reason, between multiple youth-serving organizations in various sectors, which include health and human services, wellness, nonprofits, etc. And so there's a bunch of different people who have hands in the pot of Service Access for Youth, and they come together and provide some sort of services, one way or another. So I'm from Children's Hospital, you are a community volunteer through HCF, same with you, you're a social work student, you're a social work student, we all come together and do our thing and can provide different competencies and get care. So, cool. So, slide number 2, Dave. Homeless youth ?
Okay, homeless youth. What are some reasons you can think of why youth may be homeless? What do you think you would be feeling if any of these things happened to you?
Okay,
See page 3.
Okay. So really, a lot of people don't understand, and I myself was one of them when I started last September. I was like, homeless youth, why are they homeless? Why are kids out on the street living there? And so just to kind of think through the reasons why people might be homeless helps put yourself in their shoes and understand really what's happening. So don't cheat on page 3 of the manual quite yet. I want a discussion. So what are some reasons you can think of why kids might be homeless? And I say kids as in kids and young adults.
Sure. So if things are bad at home, or if they're kicked out at home of being at home. Yep. So they could be kicked out for, if they got into trouble, if they were, getting into legal trouble or, drugs, or just for lifestyle things. Or they could be being abused at home or not feel safe.
Absolutely. Those are all great.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can think of is the environmental factors from home. Also, once they reach the age of 18, any services they would get as a minor would change. And so therefore, they could be left without any of those other benefits they could be receiving before.
Right. Anything else to add? I think it was pretty thorough. So how does child homelessness differ from adult homelessness? Any ideas?
How does child homelessness? Say it again.
Yeah, and so we have all these organizations who are providing services for homeless adults. And so, basically the question is, why are we special? Why is there a specific drop-in center for youth who are homeless? So what problems do we see that are different in youth homelessness?
Well, children, are more vulnerable than adults. And that's a time in their lives where, society sort of accepts that services should be provided for people until the age of 18. So if they don't have parents, then they're in a foster home until they're 18. So there's even, I think, more of a burden on society, or more of a reason for society to take care of younger people.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else?
a lot of kids who are experiencing homelessness were also homeless as smaller children. And as we were talking, my enthusiastic reference to Professor Fusco's neuroscience lectures. I mean, your brain is like developing when you're little, and so also a lot of these young adults are also parents of small children, and so there's like a huge vulnerability for like, you know, deprivation and neglect.
Yeah, absolutely. And then some other things that I've thought of is, you know, when you talk about adult homelessness, it's a lot of chronic homelessness. And so really, it's so important for us to come in here with the mindset that these are kids probably experiencing this, you know, pretty early on in the stage of homelessness. This could be their first time, this could be their second time. But really, it's up to us to make sure that they don't turn into those who are chronically homeless. Great, makes sense? That was my thought. Do you have anything else to add? And then, does anyone know what the definition of homeless is? No. I don't know. I'm like dictionary definition.
Like
But,
not
what-
having a secure and permanent place where they can sleep at night.
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty standard. We can get into specifics when we talk about housing stuff, but there's a bunch of different rules with housing and urban development and all the other stuff. So anyway, okay. You guys are rock stars. So say schedule. When does say happen? Say happens Monday through Friday, 12 to 3 p.m. During this time, in addition to general services 12 to 3, we have lots of different programming happening. And so there's actually been some stuff added since I made this PowerPoint. Mondays 1 through 3, we have our nurse from Healthcare for the Homeless. Tuesday 1 to 3, Department of Human Services brings their LGBT services liaison. Wednesday 12 to 3 is the nurse who is from Family Links and Children's Hospital, nurse practitioner. And so she differs from the nurse in that she can prescribe the medication. And Thursday, it says 5 to 9 is the social worker. It actually happens now that we have social work interns, and so these people are here pretty much during the day at normal times and do all sorts of social work stuff. The 5 to 9 slot has turned into consistent HIV testing, but HIV testing is also offered anytime that I'm here because I'm a tester. So things are evolving, and then in addition to just like the general ongoing programming, we have enrichment workshops, and we have community partners coming in. So Kids Voice is the legal advocacy group that works with kids in foster care or who aged out of foster care, and they come the second Wednesday of every month. And then Art Expressions is an art, I don't want to call it art therapy because they're not therapists, I'll call it art as therapy. So doing art projects, and yesterday they made space heaters out of
Clay pots.
Yeah, clay pots. It was really cool. Actually, there's one right over by the TV. And so they were able to draw on them or do whatever they wanted to do with Sharpie or paint or... Yeah, it was very cool. And so they will be coming every single Thursday from 1:30 to 3 and help these people who are here process some of the things they're going through art. And then Tuesdays, once a month, we also have... What is it called? The music. Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
I think her name is Jessica Lee. She runs the organization. And so I definitely know that there's going to be a jewelry making workshop. And then the music ones, there's African drumming, and I think there's a spoken word workshop as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening. Definitely encourage you guys to actually get involved whenever they're here. Okay. Before we move on, I just want to talk about some statistics. Page number 4. So these are actually wrong because since I wrote this manual, I finished my final report for the grant that gave us money to provide mental health services on site and to pay for a little bit of me and some of our nurse practitioners' wages and some of the equipment in our medical room. It turns out that since December 2013 through December 2014, we saw 226 individuals walk through this door, and all those people qualified as homeless. I think it was 73%, which turns into like 160 of those people were age 25 and under. I would say it's 25 to, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's about 25 to 35% were street homeless. The other majorities were living in transitional housing programs or in different shelters. So it's pretty big. And then, like you said, some of the reasons the youth are homeless versus adults is because of lifestyle choices. And so traditionally we have seen about 40% of our youth are also part of the LGBTQ community, which is huge. So it's really up to us, not only to break that cycle of chronic homelessness, but provide culturally competent care and make sure that we are taking into account some of these things, like gender identity and sexual orientation when talking about resources and places, safe places for these kids to go. Okay. Staffing volunteering. So just housekeeping stuff. Every day there has been a contract that was signed. So every day there is always a GLCC volunteer who is here and attends to the front desk and the phone. They log people into the Chris desk. I think Chris is Community Resource Info Center. And so if this person is not here, the center should not open. You can have the codes all you want, and you can come in and you can hang out, but the center doesn't open until that GLCC person comes. Just because it's in a contract, and without that person, there's a bunch of liability issues. Who else is here? All of you guys. So me, Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh's AmeriCorps member, and soon to be my replacement. HCF volunteers, social work interns, staff members, practitioners, whatever you want to call it, whoever they are. And so the space where we are is the Gay and Lesbian Community Center. So who knows anything about this space? Why is this space so special? Why do we pick this space? You know the answer.
Sorry. And I think it's a very open, well, as you said, 40% of the people that come in are part of this community. Yep. And also it's just a really good place to have like strong bonds, and it's an easy place to confide in and to kind of relax and be open.
Absolutely.
What else? What's the big rule of this place?
Safe space rules.
Here we go. This is a safe space.
Important, which are on the wall.
They're on the wall, and they're also on page 6 of the packet. So we're going to go over those. So you guys want to just go around the room and read each of the safe space rules. Before we do that, though, just want to let you all know, Lindsay started this process of getting safe space and informed consent. I don't know where that's gone, honestly, but at one point, everyone who walked through the door had to be basically given the safe space rules and said, you know, okay, you are now in a safe space. This is a community center where we respect everyone, and these are the rules. If you can abide by these rules, you'll sign the agreement and you're welcome to come. If you can't follow the rules, or if for some reason you happen to break the rules, then there will be consequences, and those were laid out as well. So I'm not sure what happened with that. We're going to try to get that back up and running. Do you remember anything? Any of this happening?
I think it was like a week. There was like a week.
It might have been when you were away for winter break when it started.
No, it was prior to that. After the I think it was like the November meeting.
The collaborative meeting, we talked about it, and then
she that was when we had a Project Silk, and then because I was like very am very adamantly concerned about people carrying weapons in here, and so we were doing that, but it was supposed to be me who was doing it, according to Lindsay, but according to HCF, it's not supposed to be me who's doing it. And according to me, I agree. I don't think it should be me because I'm not here every day, and it needs to be a consistent face.
And so that's why we're here to talk about this.
So
we can start that up again.
With that.
Because we've been having some issues recently with behavior by some of the clients, and I think it's really important. Again, we're here to make a concerted effort as a team to make sure that everyone is safe and that this is a safe place to be. So we can start up the informed consent of safe space. We'll talk about files. I think that's going to work out really well if we start all this together. Okay. Who wants to start reading safe space rules? Jeremy.
Sure. Everyone is free to label themselves as they wish. Even if you don't agree, respect it. Be proud of who you are.
Yes. Juliana.
Everybody's ideas, opinions, and thoughts and concerns are heard and respected by everyone.
We're here to socialize. We're here for support. Please control your hormones in this space and refrain from any inappropriate behavior.
Confidentiality is very important to all of us. Everything said here stays here.
And that's huge. That is absolutely huge when working with these youth and young adults. what I like to call them, but really, these are, I call them kids, and we're just going to keep calling them kids. So the kids who come here are really vulnerable. They've been in pretty bad situations at some point in their life, and right now they're struggling enough to come down here and ask for help. And so it's really important that we maintain all sorts of confidentiality. That doesn't mean you can't talk about it with other people in the team, but that means that you can't go around and start talking about everything that happened. And I'm pretty sure HCF makes you sign a confidentiality agreement. Yes?
Yes, I believe I've signed that before.
Maybe?
Probably. I mean, I
social
just
work
go
you
by
probably
the code
do.
of ethics, so.
Yeah, social work, you guys have your own thing.
We do.
Yeah, which is fine, because that makes more sense anyway.
Yeah.
Because you'll be doing social work competencies versus HCF, you'll be doing volunteer stuff. So we'll figure out rules and stuff later. Anyway, just note the last bullet is not really a bullet. That was an error, so you can cross it off. Discrimination and homophobia will not be tolerated inside or outside of our space.
We do not have maids. Do your part to help out. Our space is ours. We need to respect it and keep it nice.
Yeah, I think this is something that we can all work on together as volunteers. And providers here is encouraging the young people to clean up after themselves because we're not their maids and we should not be cleaning up after them. Yeah. Okay.
This is a safe space. If you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol, please leave. If you came here looking for drugs or alcohol, please leave.
Yep.
Anyone under the age of 18 will not leave the premises without parental permission if a parent brought you to the group.
So this is more for like the youth night that happens on Friday.
How often are the youth nights?
Every Friday.
Every Friday. From what time?
We'll go over that, but I think it's
7 to 10?
7. Yeah, sure, 7 to 10.
Do you need
Begins around
volunteers, sir?
I don't work for GLCC. Probably.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Okay, we can talk.
As Dave.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, so we are at all cell phones. All cell phones are to be silenced or turned off during discussion sessions and meetings.
Yeah. So if there's like the art projects or there's the drumming happening, just encourage people to do that. I don't know if it's really feasible for drop-in. Their cell phones going off every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Please respect the person who's speaking. No crosstalk or side conversations during discussion session or presentations. We don't have a whole lot of those happening because we really figured out that presentations and formal education sessions drive people away from the center. Granted, we want this to be structured in some way. We need to provide services and have the expectation that the youth will come here and get something done. But if you make it so structured, they're all going to leave.
In addition to say
That's not a safe space rule, but that's cool. You can read it.
Okay. The GLCC has many other programs occurring. The library on site is one of the largest LGBT libraries in the nation, and books are free to check out.
That's true.
That is absolutely true. This is used to be number 2. Now I think it's number 3 in the nation. And so it runs by duodecimal system. That's our library over there. If anyone wants to check out a book, I think there might be movies in there as well. All you have to do is go to the Chris desk, and there's a Google Doc that you can sign it out. I think you get it for 2 weeks, totally free of charge, and then you're asked to bring it back. And so often our clients will be interested in going to the library and checking out books. I totally encourage it. I'd rather have them reading than playing on my cell phone. Okay, so now when it comes to safety, if there is ever a situation when guests or clients, let's say, are not complying with the rules, a warning will suffice describing the behavior and how it violates safe space. So, hey, little Jimmy, you just swore that violates safe space rules. Please don't swear anymore, or else you'll be asked to leave.
Can we talk about this for a second? About
Yes.
language? I mentioned this
Yeah.
to you. I am really adamantly against policing people's language. I think that it's like really condescending and like unless it's being proffered in a really violent way towards another person, especially if it's racial language, I'm 100% not comfortable as a white middle class person telling someone they can't use a racial like term. And when I'm sitting here, they're constantly I use foul language. I don't use it in here, but it's like if it's supposed to be a safe space and I'm like policing them, it's like I'm your superior. I think it's like totally inappropriate.
Well, there's a difference, right? There's like when one client is calling another one a dog and get the dogs out of here, and this is totally
That's not what I'm talking about, though.
You're talking about like swear words.
Yeah, which I hear other people say, don't say that, and I just don't.
That's
anyway,
an interesting point.
that's just my.
Yeah.
It doesn't adhere to like social work standards at all.
Well,
doing
there's
that.
been some problems with that too. that there's been some situations where that's sort of come out. So,
In what way?
in how somebody was swearing, and someone was like, "Stop! You're swearing," and somebody else got mad because they didn't see why that was a problem. So it became
That has
like,
happened.
a few times actually. So
I'm reading
that's-
a book right now that was written by someone who ran a drop-in center, maybe does, for like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole thing is that like we can't look at these people in the same lens that like if I were to behave in a certain way, it would signify one thing, whereas if someone who came and chose a drop-in center acted in the same way, it would signify something totally different.
Right.
And so
That's a big cultural
Like-
competency piece.
like
I agree.
if I'm gonna say, oh, you can't use these words, but it's like it doesn't mean the same. I don't know. I will never enforce like a swearing thing personally unless they're using it in a violent way against
Right.
another person.
So let's go back to the rule. If there's a situation when guests that say or are not complying with rules, please give them a warning describing the behavior and how it violates safe space. If the behavior continues, the client should be asked to leave for the day. And so you give them a warning. If they don't, adhere to your warning and they continue with the behavior, they're out for the day, and that is it. Politely ask them to leave. You can help them to the door. You can do whatever you need to do. Make sure you don't put yourself in danger when that happens. If they return, so the next day, and the behavior continues, then they will be asked to not return and are banned from the premises. And my only side note to this is that they are only banned after we have had a discussion as a team and Lindsay is aware of the situation. And then she makes the final decision on banning because this is her center. If your safety is in question, you need to walk out of the GLCC or you need to contain the people. If there's a bunch of people in here and there's someone violent and something bad is happening, you get the violent person out of the room and you come in and make sure that everyone else and yourself are safe. And you need to call 911. Please call 911 if anything really terrible happens. That's what should happen. The police have been called here before. They know where it is. You better believe it. Any questions? Okay. So let's go to page 3 of the PowerPoint. So cultural competency. Jeremy, would you like to read?
Sure.
Sorry, it's green. I didn't realize.
Displaying cultural competence is key to having positive working relationships with clients.
Yep.
And this includes knowledge, beliefs, and behavior. So personal identification, language, thoughts, communications, actions, customs, beliefs, values that are specific to ethnic, racial, religious, geographic, or social groups.
So it's a lot of stuff.
And then these elements influence beliefs and belief systems of the provider.
Exactly. So it's really important that we as providers are aware of all of these things about our clients and that our own perception of this specific culture or value or something will influence the way that we treat people and the way that we work with them. Go ahead, Juliana.
Two on the slide.
Our clients.
Okay. Our clients include people from all walks of life with diverse cultural and ethnic backgrounds, life experiences, and preferences.
So go ahead and you can read this and we'll explain.
Okay. LGBT clients are the norm. How to address them? Ask.
Yep. So how do you address someone? If you look at someone and you say, okay, this person is male, you're going to say, hi, how are you doing? What's your name? Nice to meet you. Pronoun doesn't come up in that.
Nope, at all.
If it's really important to them, they'll probably make it really obvious to you and they'll say, hi, it's nice to meet you, Jake. My name is blank. I prefer the pronoun blank. And so it could be he, it could be she, it could be they. There might be other ones, but those are the norm here. There are many
The other
pronouns.
ones are kind of like outdated a little bit.
Yeah, they're not as
Yeah.
common.
Yeah, I don't. That's what I've heard. Anyway, it's all about asking. Okay, go ahead, Juliana.
Understand that while the client's experience might be different than yours, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Understand their history and past and current way of life to get the whole picture and see why that practice or belief is congruent with those aspects.
Yep.
Learn from the experiences and adjust your behavior for future encounters.
So basically, cultural competency, it's pretty simple stuff. If you're not a jerk, then you'll be fine. So make sure you treat people. What's the golden rule?
Treat others the way
you wanna be
you want to be
treated.
treated.
Okay, but what's the problem with the golden rule?
That's the problem with the golden rule.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a song about friends.
Are you singing in your head?
Yeah.
I was about to say.
What's the problem
She's
with the
like,
golden
well,
rule? I never realized it until...
People might have different ways that they want to be treated,
Right.
different standards.
Right, so you don't treat people how you want to be treated, you treat them how they want to be treated. Right? Does that make sense? We always talk, treat them how you want to be treated, but it's not about you. You are the provider and they are here for services. You treat them how they want to be treated. That's as simple as that. That's interesting. You like that? I got some tricks up my sleeve. AmeriCorps taught me something.
There you go.
Okay. And so now we're just going to go through safety. So, again, the whole thing about safety is really in with the lens of cultural competency. You have to understand where these young people are coming from, the situations they're living in, and their past experiences, possible traumas, all this other stuff that they've experienced, and why sometimes they might feel unsafe and how the things that they do could make us feel unsafe. So these youth and young adults are not in such great positions. They are very vulnerable, and often they're emotional. Imagine being homeless and it being the middle of winter and not knowing where your next meal will come from, not knowing if you'll ever be able to get a job, and knowing that finally 12 o'clock has come and you can come to GLCC and you can sit down somewhere warm, but you're probably really crowded. Anyway, so not in such great position. If the client isn't complying, you're going to go through that safety checklist, that kind of thing we read before. So first talk to the person. So give them a warning, talk to them, see what's going on. I had someone walk in 2 weeks ago. They were very out of character. They were very irritable, screaming and yelling. Why can't I have any coffee? And what's the problem here? Why do I have to turn my music off? And I said, okay, this is really unlike you. Is something happening? Can we talk? And so it really came out that this person was having a bunch of issues in their personal life that was affecting the way they were acting here. And because of these issues, they had lost their housing. So that's going to make you really emotional. When you pick up on cues like that and people are acting out, talk to them about it. Bring them back into a private, safe space. Have a discussion about these things. Because that's why they're here. They need something. They're not here to learn about you. They're not here to say, hey, Dave, where are you from? Oh, yeah, tell me all about yourself. They're here to say, I need help. Please help me. But sometimes they don't actually say that. Usually it's very rarely. Rarely do they say that.
Rarely, yeah.
Usually you have to pull it out of them. But the point is they're here for a reason. Okay. So many of the young people we serve often live in dangerous places or on the street and are vulnerable to being attacked or hurt. Some feel safer if they have weapons or they carry it to ensure that they can defend themselves if necessary. So the weapons policy is that GLCC is a safe space. Clients are not allowed to be in possession of weapons here on premises. And so every client who is in possession of a weapon should be given the opportunity to hand the weapon over for safekeeping at the front desk. It's going to be in the board office, in the desk, or in a safe. I think they're trying to obtain a safe at this point to put in the desk to keep all the weapons. If the person does not want to hand you over their weapons, then they need to be asked to leave. If they're in here and we're already told about the weapons policy and you see that they have a box cutter or a knife in their pocket, you need to tell them that they have a knife in their pocket that's against the rules. They were told about the weapons policy and that they need to leave. I don't see any excuses with that. If they know, like somebody we know who carries about 6 knives on him, he knows very well that there is a policy of turning in your weapons when you come to the door. But often when they don't see Lindsay at the front desk, they think, I don't have to do that today. And so I think it's up to us to make sure that that standard is enforced. That if they know the policy is in place and they don't willingly turn their weapons in when they come in the door, they're out. That's it. Y'all agree?
Yes.
I don't know. I feel conflicted about that because with that particular person,
Yeah.
he does. If you're like, dude, you pulled out 4 and I still see one, he's like, oh, I forgot, which I know is like. I think I forget stuff literally all the time. Like, literally all the time I forget things. And I don't know.
Part of me is like, okay, there's a lot going on in their lives. Maybe they won't remember to turn their weapons in, but
I know
it's an everyday thing for this person.
I know. I just feel like, and also he's never had like if you remind him a second time, he will always turn them in and not get angry. There are other people, when I've said you need to turn that in, who've put up a fight and a half about it. And to me, that is like, okay, no, you need to leave. But he's like very compliant.
So you guys think it's better to say every time, hey, do you have any or hey, I see a knife there, would you mind turning it in? And then if they say no, then they're out. Or if they put up a fight, then they're out.
Right.
For
I
the
feel
second
like
time.
You have to address it.
Yeah.
You have to. If you see it, you have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to.
I think that's fair. Sometimes you're right.
I mean,
Sometimes
it's
you forget.
ridiculous. I get that it's ridiculous.
The whole concept is this person calls themselves the Shield. They say that they are the police, basically the informal police of downtown, and they save people from experiencing violent crime, but in a different way. That's a little less sophisticated.
Very serious.
Yeah, and so this person carries knives in their vest, which happens to have a fake police badge and all these other things. And so I think you know who we're talking about. And so this person carries around all these knives, which is fine. I understand you live in a bad neighborhood, you walk around the streets all night.
No, you don't.
You might need a knife to protect yourself. And he was robbed in the past. And maybe that knife saved him. Who knows? But I agree with you. Let's ask.
Fine.
It is, yeah.
I should ask.
So many fine lines.
So many fine lines. I'm going to say use your judgment, but I think the most important part is that we have a standard that we can all follow, and then from there we can kind of discuss and go as situations emerge. Again, this is never going to be the simplest thing you've ever done. Probably the most complicated thing you've ever done to provide services to people with lots of complicated issues and complicated lives. Serious.
So we're saying the new standard is if they did forget to turn their weapons in, as soon as they walk in, you remind them. If they do turn with no complications, everything's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But if a fight happens.
If they put up a fight about turning in their weapon, or they're like, "Nah, man, you never told me that," and I'm like, "Yeah, I told you yesterday and the day before and the day before. Whenever you turn your knives into me, you're out the door." That's fair. Okay. Last thing is, again, remember Lindsay's like the clearinghouse because she runs the center. So Lindsay and other volunteers should be informed of incidents so that we can enforce uniform standards. No one can be technically banned from the center without talking to Lindsay first about the incident that happened. She'll make that decision. And then I guess another really important thing to mention is that we are a team of volunteers through Service Access. GLCC is a volunteer-run organization itself. Lindsay is the director of that organization. And so we hold our program here, and their staff are here. And so we need to make sure that our staff is communicating with their staff, and that Lindsay is that contact person, and she'll talk to everyone else. What? Why are you laughing?
Just looking at his face. Which looks a little like the Lorax.
The Lord. That's pretty bad.
I'm glad he's taping this.
Oh, he's the orange thing. Is it
Yes,
the
it
Lord?
is. Like, it was just
He's gonna be out
expression.
Look, we're actually fun people.
We really are. Get to know us.
I swear to God, we're fun people, usually. Except some days. Push us to the limits. Okay. Daily functioning. Who wants to talk about daily functioning? So, daily functioning would be page 4 of your PowerPoint, page 7 of your manual. I was told I had to do this. Don't rip on me.
I got a little ahead of myself here. I'm sorry.
Are you on page like 28?
She's on page 9.
By the way, there's
I'm
like 30-something, 29 pages. Okay, so daily functioning.
I can read it.
Go ahead, Dave.
Alrighty, daily functioning. Volunteers are expected to help set up the room for clients by putting up a table and chairs, as well as a table for food to be placed, buffet style.
Ta-da.
That's our buffet. Yeah.
In front of the TV.
Volunteers should help bring out the food, plates, and silverware.
Yep.
When clients come to the center, they must sign in, this is really important, using the iPad to indicate what they are interested in doing or learning more about. Utilize client-centered counseling techniques when discussing their needs.
We'll go over that.
Review client and volunteer expectations, page 6 and 7.
So, something I skipped, sorry. Page 6 at the bottom. So, expectations of youth. Margie wrote these, our favorite volunteer, Margie. She was like, I think these youth need to be held accountable, and she made expectations for them, and I loved it. So, youth expectations, pick up after themselves. We talked about that. It's part of Safe Space too. Including food that is brought in, personal items, no knives or weapons, no alcohol or drugs, be respectful of one another. No PDA. I'm not sure what happened that made her make this rule, but I kind of agree with it. No public display of affection. So, hand-holding, kissing. I think there was an incident where someone was making out in the main room, and it was uncomfortable for other people. As a safe space, limit shouting, loud talking, negativity, and confrontational behavior. And so this one's pretty important because we do work with people who have some pretty traumatic pasts and have experienced abuse and violence in their lives, and so sometimes loud noises and screaming and shouting can actually be a trigger for them. Only one youth in the bathroom at a time, and the youth bathroom is right there.
And that's important.
Way back there.
That happens a lot.
Is there a policy? Someone asked me last week to use the bathroom in the back.
Why?
And I let that person said, I don't feel comfortable using this bathroom. I'm trans, I don't want people walking in on me. And I was like, that's fine, but I was also kind of like, isn't there a lock on the door?
I don't know.
I've never been back
I
there.
actually don't think
I've been in there a few times. I think there was a lock.
I feel like there is.
I don't know.
Maybe there isn't.
I really
We're
felt
like
there
20
might
feet away from this door.
You get up
Could
and walk over
literally
and
go
check
up and
it.
check it,
But I,
Anyway,
but you don't have to do that.
I'm gonna go look at it. I don't think it's a problem as long as you escort them back.
that's what I did.
You just
But
stay
I
with
was
them,
kind
right?
of like,
Yeah, just
kind
stay
of
with
like,
them
I
and
wanna
make sure they're
respect
not.
this, but I
Just don't
also
leave.
feel like it's the GLCC, like of all bathrooms, to feel okay about.
And sometimes that's a little scary, so you want to take them to the other bathroom. Sometimes things happen.
I don't think that's a problem at all. Okay, like Dave said, signing on the iPad is really important.
Really,
That was new.
that's newer.
Yeah, I
new
have
since
it.
you've been here.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll go over that later.
Okay.
Let's just go, I'm going to quickly do page 7 of the manual. So roles of staff and volunteers. GLCC volunteers up there at the Chris desk answers incoming phone calls. They are not responsible. Anyone from GLCC is not responsible for say program directly, but they do help with organizing and they can help us set up food. They can answer client stuff. Yeah, you're fine. They can answer client questions. They do regulate the lobby and direct any incoming clients into our community space. The Chris desk person is often also the first person who asks them to sign on the iPad. But really, they are not engaged whatsoever in direct service of our clients. Right. That's us. AmeriCorps member is me, or whoever will follow up after me and take my position. And so I'm from Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh in the Division of Adolescent and Young Adult Medicine. I'm on site at SAY for medical clinics and HIV testing. Those are my two main roles, but really, in general, the AmeriCorps member manages the space and kind of the SAY program, as they're the one who's here the most often. Some other things I do, I take part in all the clinical visits on Mondays and Wednesdays. I provide health education, make clinical referrals, enroll people in health insurance, talk to people about benefits and signing up for those. That includes like SNAP, which is food stamps and assistance for needy families, cash assistance, and then work on housing and other issues related to health. So the AmeriCorps members through the Pittsburgh Health Corps program, which means that their focus is access to healthcare, health education, and community service. That's it. That's me, that's my number, and you can give me a call whenever you need. Daily, and then there's you guys, so volunteers with the program, so like Juliana, and I think, Jeremy, you're not gonna do clinic stuff, right?
Right, I'm just going to be volunteer.
Cool. So volunteers, when I don't have clinic, I'm also just a normal volunteer, and I help with all the stuff that you guys will, which is going to be helping with the food, helping with the front area. I really think that based on the trends that have been happening, we should have one volunteer in this room hanging out. You can hang out and do your work in here, you can eat your lunch in here, you can talk to people in here, whatever you do. But I just think it's important that we have someone in here kind of supervising what's happening. Just so you all know, at this point, the GLCC does have cameras. There's 7 cameras. So there's going to be a camera in the back corner, there's 2 cameras here, there's cameras in the lobby. And so if anything ever were to happen, you would be able to review the footage and use that just to kind of corroborate your story. Hopefully nothing will happen. We had to use it once, but I think everything worked out. Okay, daily functions. So page 7 of the manual, this was written when we were doing paper cards. We don't do paper cards anymore, which is excellent for me because I don't have data entry to do. So we will sign in on the iPad. The iPad started December of 14. You were gone, sorry about that. But so the iPad is a normal iPad. You turn it on, and then on the bottom taskbar, there's a little app that looks like, it's gray, it says RedCap. I'm not sure if you're familiar with RedCap. It's a data system that the IRB at Pitt uses, the Review Board for Research Studies. And so, you jamming out there? And so on the iPad, it's a little gray icon, says RedCap, and it looks like I think it's an R with a red hat on it. Get it? And so all you'll do is you'll click that, it'll automatically open the web browser, and then the person will go through the sign-in. And so in general, the great thing about the iPad is that I have it programmed now that we don't have to do 2 separate cards. If they've been here before, they'll click yes. They don't have to do any of the demographic information. We ask that when they come in and sign in, if they don't feel comfortable giving their real name, that every time they come in, they use the same name, so I can track who they are. And so that's how we figure out the data. That's how I figured out we've seen 226 people. So that is that. So how do you know what they're here for? Is that red cap? Well, it was the cards. Red cap, you can't check what they're here for. So the data will know, the computer will know, but that gets into like person first techniques, like working with people and asking them, saying, hi, I'm Juliana. I'm a volunteer here. How can I help you today? I'm Jeremy. How can I help you today? What can we do for you? And so that opens up the discussion. We found that the survey shows people what's available, and then the discussion afterwards, either they can not ask about all the things that they've put, or they can ask about more things. So it seems to be working okay. So in a client-focused manner, engage with the client, ask what you can help with for the day. You can refer them to the survey. So with RedCap, you can't refer them to their actual card anymore, but you can say, remember that survey you took. What did you say that you might want help with? And then if they have no idea, then you can be like, oh, we can help with medical clinic, or we can get you HIV testing, or we can help you with clothing and hygiene products, or whatever. Give them the options, and then they'll probably remember what they wanted. Okay, so why don't we... Yeah, let's do a quick thing on counseling techniques. So what's the general definition of counseling? Does anyone know?
Any interaction with the client that you would use to, I don't know, just someone there that would be there to listen and give advice on any of their issues and to assist them in any way that they feel they need.
Yeah. Counseling is such a scary word sometimes. It's like, oh my God, I have to go to counseling today. I don't want to go see the therapist. But really, counseling is like when you sit down and you have a one-on-one with someone. I talk about it all the time. Oh, I counsel this person on housing therapy. I counsel them on birth control. I counsel them on whatever. Who knows? So counseling is just basically, like Juliana said, any basic interaction with a client where you sit with them and discuss their situation, any of their needs, and possibly give them resources. That's it. So counseling can be informal or can be formal. And so here at Service Access, we found that informal counseling seems to work best, except when there are issues related to confidentiality. And then you'll have to go in the back and you can make it a little bit more formal. And that makes people feel better. Makes them open up to you a lot more when they know that there's in a safe space and there's no one listening and all this other stuff. So counseling should be client-centered. Does anyone know what client-centered counseling is without looking at the definition I put there? Social workies.
It's all about the client. Everything is about the client, right?
Yes.
Something along those lines?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, that's what it says?
You're using all the buzzwords.
Yes.
So client-centered counseling is counseling that is tailored to the behavior, circumstances, and special needs of a specific person. So it focuses on them. Counseling is not about what you're going to give them. It's not about you or how you feel about the situation. It's about them, what their needs are, and what's feasible. So bringing cultural competency into counseling is what is feasible in their situation, in the way that they live their life, what resources are there for them that can actually be utilized. And so in counseling a client, you can use motivational interviewing. Does anyone know what MI is? Does anyone not know what MI is?
I don't know.
You don't know? Cornell didn't teach you that?
I mean, we might have called it something else.
That is awesome. Well, if you transfer the bit, you'll get some MI. They love it there. So from my HIV class, 3 counseling concepts. These are actually really important. If you feel like it, you can write them down. You can do whatever you want to. I have little laminated cards that I actually take with me in my binder. It's just a reminder of good counseling concepts and techniques. So 3 counseling concepts are, you can just go on them.
One, focus on feelings, how an individual feels.
Yep.
Manage personal discomfort, your values.
Mm-hmm.
Have boundaries, client is key and in charge.
Sorry, shorthand.
Client's failure isn't your failure.
Right, so, focus on feelings. right? They're here for you and they're feeling something. So focus on their feelings. What is the client feeling? What is irritating them today? What is making them happy today? What is motivating them to do what they're doing? Manage personal discomfort. So you, as the counselor, your personal values should never come into play. So just because you think that, for example, birth control or abortion should not be offered to women, that doesn't mean that you can't talk to someone who is really concerned about being pregnant about those kind of services. If you feel uncomfortable doing that, talk to them about it and then refer them. That's a part of being on a team. We're here for each other. I'm not good at working with Social Security. I'm not good at talking to people about, I don't know, whatever, something difficult. And so Dave loves talking about that difficult thing. I would pull Dave in the room and I would say, Dave loves talking about difficult things. A good example is like trans issues. People who are transgender. I know nothing. I really know the basics of people who are transgender and the things that they go through and, the general transition process. And so it would be a good time for me to say, you know what, I really don't know about that. Time to bring in my friend. Is that okay? And you make that warm handle. And then number 3 is set boundaries. This was huge for me. So the first 3 months that I was here, I wanted to take everyone home with me. I felt like when no one followed through on anything I did, that it was my fault and I wasn't doing my job right. So set the boundaries. It's not your failure. Their failures are not your failures. You're putting your, all you can into working with this person, but ultimately it's up to them. It's their decision whether to follow through.
Yes, do not bring it home with you. We're
Yeah.
always taught that. Don't bring what's
Don't
here
bring it home with
to
you.
your house. That's not okay.
Right.
Because you will not be happy.
I physically almost brought people home with me because it was so cold and the severe weather shelter wasn't open and they didn't have anywhere to go and all this other stuff. Just don't do it. Just dissociate yourself. So healthy dissociation is what we like.
It's okay. Cry.
All right, Corinne, what are the 4 basic counseling skills?
Ask open-ended questions.
Thanks for being so enthusiastic.
Attentive, active listening. Client does the talking. Offering options, not directives. Giving information simply.
Okay. So ask open-ended questions. The 5 W's. What are the 5 W's?
When, why,
Who,
where.
what, when, where. Probably don't ask why. Why could be okay in very specific situations, but why often sounds judgmental.
Sounds negative.
Sounds like a judgment. You don't really want to make judgment because you need to manage your personal feelings and focus on their feelings. Attending is what the HIV class called active listening. So instead of you listening to then respond to them, actually listen and see what they're saying. So a lot of these concepts are actually in motivational interviewing. We'll get to that soon. Offer options, not directives. So they like to say offer the buffet. So if the client doesn't know what they want to do in order to somehow fix the problem, then first let them try to figure it out themselves. And if they can't think of anything, you can reframe it. And well, some people who have faced this problem think that. So in terms of HIV, some people who have faced this problem have thought about using a clean needle exchange. And others decide that they want to learn how to effectively clean their works so that when they shoot up, they're doing it safely. And that could transmit HIV. So you offer options. You don't tell them, I think you should do this, or, the only option is this. Offer a buffet, and if they latch on and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to skip motivational interviewing, but I just want to say that basically all those counseling techniques that we went over, that is motivational interviewing. And so on the slides, there's a bunch of stuff. MI talks about, it has ORS as its acronym. You use open-ended questions, you affirm what the client is saying, you reflectively listen, and then you summarize. And you figure out their motivations to make some sort of change. That's what MI is. And so I've also provided you this double-sided thing that has some statements that can help you kind of start figuring out how to use motivational interviewing effectively. So let's go into resources. This is the important part because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if you guys have resources that you know of that's out there that aren't here, that we don't talk about, then just let me know.
Just page 7 now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're on page 7, and then let me make sure. So these are all the things that they can ask for. First thing would be housing. And housing is on, we'll just go right to the resource guide. So housing for the resource guide is page 20 of your manual. And so first, I would say identify where the person is currently staying or where they're housed. Are they in a safe place? How long can they stay in that place for? If the client's on the street, I would recommend using motivational interviewing techniques to understand their motivation or lack thereof for moving off of the street. Some people prefer to stay on the street because they don't like the rules and restrictions that shelters make you abide by. In the GLCC resource section, which I was going to bring it in here, but I couldn't find it today, there's a binder by DHS, the Department of Human Services. It is called HUD-HAP, Contracted Service Provider Binder. And so it's a binder that literally provides every single housing program who contracts with the county and all of the eligibility for each of those programs. And it has a nice graph where you can look down and say, okay, well, I have a man here who has a child, and you look down the list and find exactly which programs can accept men with children. And that's a good place to start for housing if someone is ready to find a place. DHS also has a homeless services hotline to help find shelters and housing programs, and that number is the very top number you see in your provider manual, 350-3837. Assist the client in identifying the types of housing that they're looking for and then guide them into making calls. Remember that a lot of the times they're scared of making the calls themselves, so offer to either sit there with them as they make the calls, make the very first one for them and have them listen to how you do it, whatever it is, but provide the support so that they feel comfortable and actually taking control of the situation themselves.
I found it's good, like, to have them on speakerphone and both be there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're not interpreting the information accurately.
So the
they're
GLCC
also-
phone doesn't have a
I
speakerphone.
was using my cell phone.
Use your cell phone. Okay. It's not a big deal.
1,000 minutes.
Yeah.
Bother me.
I use my cell phone too. That's a really good thing to do if you have the option of using speakerphone. For people who are interested in getting their own place, Allegheny County, I don't know if, you're a Pittsburgher?
Yeah.
Are you a Pittsburgher?
I am.
Okay. So Allegheny County and the city of Pittsburgh have their own separate housing authorities. And so there's the Allegheny County Housing Authority, and then there's the city of Pittsburgh's Housing Authority. So the two of those provide public housing and a Section 8 program each. But the city of Pittsburgh obviously only has places within the city limits, whereas the county has them just outside city limits. So even though they're technically all Pittsburgh addresses, remember that there are two of them. So Section 8 housing, you only pay 30% of your income as your rent, which is the big positive thing. The big negative about Section 8 is that it only opens every once in a while for the waiting list. You have to apply during that open enrollment period, is what I like to call it, and then you'll have to wait, and they'll rank you on the list, and you'll just get called as places open. So that's more of a long-term solution. Some of my go-to places for housing, on page 20, Family Links Docks Downtown Outreach Center and Shelter. That's for young adults 18 to 21. They're in discussion on actually turning that into 18 to 24, which is great. And so they take both males and females. They are more inclusive for trans youth as well, and can they are the exclusive housing provider for people 18 to 21 here in the city. That's located right in Uptown. There's the contact info there. Beth Haven is the all-women shelter. That's also in Uptown, which is about a block from Consol Energy Center. That has a bunch of different programs, including the emergency shelter, which is pretty difficult to get into in the winter. But once you're in the emergency shelter, you can then move to their transitional housing program, which is called Miriam's. And Miriam's is, once you get in there, you have to work on specific goals, like you have to get a job or keep a job or be in school, and you can be there for 2 years. And then they also have Safe Haven for people with mental health issues that they want to work on. And they also have, I think Safe Haven might also have a drug and alcohol unit as well. And the third one is Community Human Services. And so for the people that we serve here, especially those who identify as LGBTQ or are anywhere on the gender scale, not the binary, anywhere on the gender realm spectrum. Thank you, losing my words. CHS offers a special program called Atypical Shelter, which is not really a shelter whatsoever. It's called a shelter, but remind people that when you're discussing this, that it's really a house. It is a house with a shared living common area, and then each person has their individual bedrooms. At this point, Atypical Shelter has 4 bedrooms, and 3 of the 4 are open. So it's really great. If a person is trans, if they don't feel comfortable because of their sexual identity, sexual orientation, or gender identity to be in a male or a female shelter, that's a great place to go. And often they do have open rooms. And then in addition to Atypical Shelter, Community Human Services runs Wood Street Commons, which is on 3rd Avenue and Wood Street. It's a really tall tower. They have a ton of different programs there, including a bridge housing program for those with mental health disabilities. They have an emergency shelter, and they have a Section 8 program. And every single room in Wood Street Commons is a single occupancy room. So it's not like a big shelter wherever you have a ton of beds and people sleeping together. I would call the 246-1640 is their homeless assistance program helpline. Wood Street Commons has their own lines, but that general number can help you get in contact with Wood Street. And Wood Street does intakes usually the first or second Monday and Tuesday of the month, and the person has to go there specifically and apply on those days. The fourth one is East End Cooperative Ministries. I haven't had a whole lot of success ever since they moved locations into East Liberty next to the Target, getting people in because they're very full all the time. It's a brand new building. It's big and beautiful. EECM hosts a bunch of different housing services. The one thing I really like about them is that they have a short stay program where people can stay up to 6 months, and so that's kind of in between the general emergency shelter and the long-term 2-year housing program that has a bunch of requirements for it. I would say they are the go-to besides Family Links when it comes to drug and alcohol housing. And what's really unique about EECM is that they have a compassionate care center, which is respite care for people who've been released from hospitals and don't have places to go. So they offer that really specialized care. The last thing is ESG. You'll probably hear this used a lot. ESG is a housing program. It's a grant run by HUD and DHS. And so it essentially is money that is given to either Community Human Services or Operation Safety Net to get people into houses. And so they have to go through a financial literacy class, and then they will be approved for ESG. They have to find an apartment themselves, and then this ESG program will pay for either 6 months full rent and 6 months half rent, or 9 months full rent and 3 months half rent, depending on the situation of the person. Currently that's closed and there's no money, and so the problem that you'll probably hear most often with ESG today is that I have my ESG voucher, I'm in the program, but there's no money to pay for my apartment, so I can't get a place. That's the current frustration, but we're waiting for more funds to be allocated to ESG. Hopefully this spring those will come up. Okay, food insecurity. So we'll talk about food real quick. Food's every day here. Monday through Friday there's always going to be food provided. Most often those are bought either by Children's Education Fund. There's a bunch of gift cards in the office. We'll go over where those are. Use the gift cards in the office to pay for things that are required for the program. You can use the Visa gift cards to buy plates and cups and drinks and whatever else. We typically go to Subway for Monday's meal. Subway, you can get foot-long subs for everyone for $25. When you use a gift card, there's a new tracking sheet. So if you buy something on a gift card, use the tracking sheet to find the number of the gift card and write the balance of the gift card on it. Other resources for food, there's soup kitchens listed on page 19. You can go over those yourself. But each of them provide breakfast, lunch, and or dinner, and it depends on the place, so those are all listed there for you. Showers and laundry are also huge when it comes to hygiene. Shepherd's Heart provides showers and laundry, and Project Silk has showers. Project Silk is a safe place to shower for people who are LGBT. And so that's definitely the place I would send them. Also for food insecurity, Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. I'm back on the food insecurity slide. Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, their website has a big page that lists where all the food pantries and food resources are in the county based on your zip code, which one is closest to your house, etc. The biggest underutilized program that people really love to hear about is called Produce to People, P2P. Produce to People is a program through the Community Food Bank that gives 40 to 50 pounds of fresh produce to anybody who shows up at the distribution. They self-certify that they are needy. They don't have to bring ID, they don't have to bring an access card, they don't have to bring any sort of verification, except for one of the locations which requires that you bring some sort of residency verification, because that place only serves people in specific communities.
They give us how much? 40 to 50
pounds of produce.
That's a ton of
So they ask people to bring
That's
like carts with them
amazing.
to bring it home.
So is
It's
that
the
for
most-
people? Is that for organizations or for individuals?
For individuals who need food.
Because
Wow.
produce goes bad after a couple of weeks. People can't go through 50 pounds.
So big families.
Okay.
I've got. Are you talking about this for a while? But anyway, you can store-
Corinne loves produce and
She will
farms.
go
Yeah.
hard
you
for
can store-
produce.
You can store food for months and months and months and months.
All right,
You
I'm gonna have
freeze
to talk to you
shit.
more about this because I have vegetables go bad on me all the time and it drives me
It's
crazy.
because you shop at Trader Joe's. Mine
No,
go
no,
bad in
just
like
Giant
3
Eagle
days
or
at Trader
wherever.
Joe's.
My stuff goes bad. Okay, we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So P2P, produce to people, like I swear the largest underutilized program here in the county when it comes to food insecurity. People have no idea it exists. And it's 40 to 50 pounds once a month of fresh produce. The produce will depend on what's in season. During the summer, you can get raspberries, you can get blueberries, strawberries, all the good fruits. You get some weird stuff coming in like radishes, turnips. But some people don't know how to cook them. And so the food bank actually puts on an education session on how to cook these things. And they have a really great thing called the Recipe Rainbow, where all you have to do is go in and click the food items that you have, and it will come up with recipes that include all those food items.
Oh, wow.
So the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, huge resource when it comes to food. The other thing is SNAP benefits. So SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That's food stamps. You can use those. There's normal and emergency food stamps. Emergency food stamps are people who have less than $100 of cash and make less than $150 a month on income. And so those will be right away. You apply for emergency food stamps, you'll get your card within a week. The other food stamps, it's a little bit more ridiculous. Food stamps take assets into account, not just income. And so if you own a car or have a house or a burial plot, which is the weird one, if you have stocks, if you have savings accounts, they take that into account and say that you're able to pay for food whenever really sometimes your savings accounts are, off for specific reasons. You can't take money out of them for like education accounts or something like that. So it's a one promise SNAP. More food stuff. We don't get donations from Chipotle anymore, but we do get donations from Trader Joe's for fresh produce, and Starbucks is pretty much a daily or a twice, 3 times weekly thing where we get most of the pastries from Starbucks. And just a reminder, please label the donations that come in. There is a marker on the fridge. Label the donations. It's really tiny. You can't really see it, but label the donation. And if you see stuff that was from last week and it's not good anymore, just throw it away. Clean out the fridge. That's important. When it comes to food, food is only offered 12 to 3 p.m. That is it. Make sure that the expectation is you're here 12 to 3, there's going to be food. And you can have food, and if we run out of food, then we can find something else for you. After 3 p.m., it's like a case-by-case basis. We really try to not give food out because then you set the precedence. They can come in at any time and expect food.
Jake, do you have a certain day of the week that you like to do the weekly cleaning of the fridge?
I do it Thursday because I'm here 12 to 9.
Okay.
But if that's something you want to take on, that's cool with me. I do it Thursday because at the end of the week, you've pretty much seen. In addition to picking up and buying food, we also have people who donate food, bring hot meals, and often they bring so much food that there's leftovers. And so that's when it's always good to schedule them at the beginning of the week so we have those leftovers to use on the days where no one else is scheduled. And then at the end of the week, I would say those could probably get thrown out. All right, medical mental health stuff. I'm just going to breeze through all this, as you all know. Many of the consumers come to say looking for medical or mental health services. And so my little spiel is that, we want to help them as much as possible. Once they get insurance, it is our responsibility to funnel them to our clinic and make our clinic their PCP. FYI. So the clinic here?
Yeah, the clinic here is on Monday, right?
Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
So there is a clinic here in the back that happens Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays 1 to 3 with a nurse. Wednesdays is 12 to 3 nurse practitioner. But then if someone gets insurance, then what we do is try to connect them to care at our clinic in Oakland, at the actual division. That's good to know. Yeah. So we always encourage that if consumers qualify as homeless, to come see our nurse and nurse practitioner. So homelessness, when it comes to these medical services provided through healthcare for the homeless, means that their current housing situation is that they're on the street, they're in a shelter, they're in a transitional housing program, and that also includes doubled up, which means couch surfing or being anywhere basically with a friend or a family member or a relative and you're not on the lease. So that's the big one. If for some reason you were seen by Healthcare for the Homeless and are now housed, the qualification is that you were homeless no more than a year ago. We recommend seeing this provider, the HCH, Healthcare for the Homeless provider, because then they get into the electronic medical records system, the care will be free, and there will be good continuity of care. If they don't qualify as homeless and can't actually see someone here for free, these are some other great resources. I would say the top one would be Birmingham Free Clinic, which is the city's only free clinic right across the 10th Street Bridge, right by the Salvation Army and Mercy Behavioral Health Complex. That has, actually, it's now Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And that's a free clinic. You can only go there if you don't have insurance. Then another one is if a person hasn't applied to a Medicaid or a medical assistance, then they can utilize one of the federally qualified health centers. We have 24 of them here in Allegheny County. And those use a sliding scale based on the person's income that can get them in either for a reduced cost or totally free to see a provider. And there's a website there that'll list all the centers. If the person has applied for and been denied medical assistance, they can still come here and see us. They can go to Birmingham Free Clinic. And because they have that denial letter for medical assistance, they're also eligible for UPMC's financial assistance. So they can go and start a financial assistance application and get seen at a UPMC hospital. So this is mostly used for people who have pretty complex needs. For example, they have cancer and they need oncology services, which are pretty expensive, and medical assistance has denied them. Mental health care includes individual group therapy, grief counseling. I would say the big ones for mental health care would be Wellsprings, which is part of Beth Haven, Family Links, which is countywide. It also has shelters, but it in addition adds that mental health care piece to it. And so they have a bunch of stuff. And then GLBT clients should also be directed to PersEd Center. And Lindsay works for PersEd Center. She's also the director here. And so PersEd is the largest LGBT counseling center. And I think it was the first in the country. Some more medical stuff that you can read over yourself. Mercy Behavioral Health has a medical van. It's a big RV. It goes to a bunch of places in the county. The Squirrel Hill Health Center also has a mobile RV. That's one of the federally qualified health centers that runs on sliding scale. But they actually go to Community Human Services, which is a homeless service agency. They'll go into Oakland with their medical van, and they'll provide services there. Okay. HIV testing. Everyone know what HIV is? Okay. So cultural competency, note real quick. Some young people sleep on the street. Why is HIV testing important for this population? Davey.
Because, well, a lot of these kids outside are using sex as a way to cope, and they're getting housing through sex, so that is one.
Absolutely.
Sure, take away.
Anything else?
Great.
Juliana, Jeremy. Why is HIV prevention and testing really important in this population?
It's more prevalent in this population.
Yep.
It's a huge issue.
Huge issue. Way more prevalent in the LGBT community. So HIV testing originally was offered 5 to 9 on Thursdays. It is now offered anytime. I'm here as well. So if you have someone who's interested in getting tested for HIV, it's not a blood test. We have the oral swab. It's just a quick 20-minute test. The only downside to that is that if it does come out as I don't want to say positive, as reactive, that means that the antibody was detected by the test, and then they would have to be linked to care to get a confirmatory test. And if they're under 25, we'll do that at our clinic in Oakland. If not, then we have some other resources to do that. Yep, do the Western Fly. And so HIV testing is offered free of charge to anybody. All right. Bus tickets. Bus tickets go like fire here, and they move like wildfire. So last semester when Zach was our Zach was a BSW student at Pitt. He was here with me for a long time. He decided that we kind of came up with the system that if you can show us where you're going, or if we make the appointment for you, then you're going to get a bus ticket. That's fine. If the person comes in and asks for a bus ticket to go home, not really. That doesn't work. If the person comes in and asks for a bus ticket to go to a friend's house, no. If they have an appointment that they can show you confirmation for, if they have an email for a job interview, these are the real reasons that we have these bus tickets to give to people. It's to get to their medical appointments, to their mental health appointments, to job interviews, to social service agencies, etc. It's not for personal use. So make sure that you ask for a verification. If you know the person and you have helped them, then that's cool. You can give them a bus ticket. What will happen is the bus tickets are also in the board office, in the mailbox. There's a sign-up sheet who you give the bus ticket to, how many you give them. And so we generally do 2 at most at a time for them to get there and back. If you know that where they're going can provide them bus tickets, just give them 1. If you send someone to our clinic in Oakland, Adolescent Medicine Clinic will give bus tickets to someone to get home. Let's do health insurance real quick. Do you guys know the big shakeup on health insurance as of January 1 in Pennsylvania?
Is it the Highmark UPMC divorce, or is it the Affordable Care Act kicking in?
So it is
all of the above.
It is kind of related to Affordable Care Act. No hints.
It's called something, isn't it? Doesn't have a name.
Healthy PA.
There we go. Healthy.
So Pennsylvania is one of our great 50 states. I don't know how many of the 50 didn't choose to do this, but through the Affordable Care Act, every state was offered Medicaid expansion. And so Medicaid expansion means that instead of having people who are able to work only eligible for a very limited amount of medical assistance, if any at all, the expansion would provide medical assistance to those who are 138% of the federal poverty limit. At this point, the FPL is about $11,500. It's probably a little less than that. And so if you're, this is a really convoluted way of looking at it, but there's a gap. It's easier for me to draw. If you are able to work and you make between $0 a year and $2,000 a year, you are eligible for medical assistance. If you can work and make above that, you're not eligible under the old system. If you are disabled, you can make up to 100% of the federal poverty limit. So if you're disabled temporarily or permanently, you can get medical assistance if you make up to $11,500, I'll say. The good news is now with Healthy PA, pretty much everyone who is low income is able to get a health plan through medical assistance. That's the great news. And so if you're able to work and you make under, I think it's $15,000 a year is 138% at this point, you can help get signed up for a medical assistance Healthy PA plan. If you're disabled and you made more than the income, that income has also risen. And so you can make specific amounts. Remember that 15 is only for a 1-person family. So when you have a bigger family, those numbers go up. So I guess my big takeaway from this is, as of January 1st, it's my goal to get every single person in here applying for medical assistance, because I would say 99% of them, because of this new Healthy PA plan, are eligible. And the whole point is to increase their access to healthcare and get them off of this clinic, which is really just a safety net clinic. So in your counseling and you're talking to them, talk to them about health insurance. If you don't know how to sign people up for health insurance, I'm always here to help, and there's some resources on here as well. So the way to do it is through Compass, and you can Google it. If someone's unsure about their insurance status, I have a special login that I can look into the state system and see if their insurance has been turned on, and I can see their benefits as well. Okay. Clothing and hygiene, Dave. Why don't you just do this? Because I'm sick of talking, and I have to present tonight too.
Is it somewhere in here?
That's right here.
Oh, okay.
Just talk about it. I don't care.
Okay, so we have, I don't know if you've been to the back, you'll get a tour.
I'll give you a tour.
Yeah, it's going through some renovations, I think I'm hearing that correctly. But we have a giant closet in the
on
back.
Monday.
Oh, on Monday, that's when
Me
that
and my
starts.
AmeriCorps friends are coming.
Oh, that's amazing. So people can come in, and you can go to the back. We have to take you to the back, and there's lots of clothes. We have thousands of clothes from donations from people, from all sorts of organizations. You can come back here. We have shoes. We have hygiene products. We have like everything. So you can go back there. Someone has to go back with you, and
somebody has to go back with the client.
with the client. No, with me.
Not with
Come
you.
back with me. I'm not. Yeah, that doesn't help. Yeah.
We just stare at it in awe.
Just stare at me.
Just like what?
That's all I want
No,
you
not
to
at
see.
you. At the clothes.
Oh, just
Pile
stare.
clothes.
Yeah, so, yeah. So, that's in a nutshell. Go back there and get clothes. And you can pick up, there's not like a limit.
There's not a limit, but I would say, like, be respectful. Don't leave with 3 bags of clothing.
You know when someone's taking it out. And like certain items, like thermals, we only had a few of those. So we had to be more selective.
And socks and underwear
socks.
and bras are pretty limited.
We have a very small selection and not a lot of matches for socks. So.
And then the toiletries. What kind of toiletries do you have?
Everything.
Yeah.
We have the little shampoo, big shampoos, toothpaste, toothbrushes, floss,
Razors, shaving creams,
yes,
lotions,
absolutely
hair
everything.
dye.
tampons, pads, hair
Hair
dye.
dye.
Oh, we have hair
we're
dye back there.
There is hair dye back there. I don't know
that.
why it's there.
There's the red.
For the clients, not for me.
It's red or pink, I think.
Oh, that's exactly. I'll take care.
Give a little spice to your sculling.
And is there do we keep a log or anything so we
Yes.
can replenish? Okay.
So
Please keep a log.
make sure you're writing down what they're taking on a
Okay.
little anything. Write down. We used to write it back in the form,
Okay.
and then take it up to the front in the front desk. Give it to the front desk person.
So my vision is that as of
Change.
Monday,
Okay.
currently the GLCC has a Google document that actually has all of the inventory on it. It's definitely not right. There's nothing on there that is correct. And so my vision is that for Monday, when we move everything and reorganize, that we will actually count and re-inventory everything. And so from that point forward, please keep a log of everything. If you are able to actually go into the inventory yourself and take stuff out, log it out, then that's great. If you don't have time or there's not a computer open, then leave it with the front desk person and ask that they log it out.
Yeah. Just make sure it gets logged too, because sometimes those papers don't go in.
They kind of go into nothing.
Most of the time, they're not. They're in somewhere.
What?
Why?
They asked me to do it.
Okay.
This is their thing.
Who's
the
them?
GLCC.
Okay.
So the
I just
clothing
feel like it's
closet is a
crazy because
GLCC
people
project.
Come in with stuff all the time. People leave with it all the time, and it's like. It's
You're
not
saying
like we
why
get,
log
it's not
it?
Why
like we
log
get
it?
stuff based on what isn't there. We just get stuff based on what people
That is
bring.
interesting.
So my right.
I
So
don't
my
care.
my thought
it
is
just seems like a crazy thing to
Are
say.
it's
there
better
any-
to inventory when it comes in, and it doesn't really matter to inventory what goes out. It's really the donations that I think the space, the organization needs for their taxes and for whatever else. I don't really see any
But
need
I
to
mean,
inventory out.
I think if you were to have like a really good inventory, then you could maybe make a request like Target or Walmart or whatever, you know, from like, or to people who are going to donate things, you could let them know what's needed. Like you said that you need more socks and underwear. And
Generally,
bras and
we
stuff.
know that,
Yeah.
but the inventory could supplement.
Yeah,
So,
it just seems
there are-
so we can discuss that again. In general, the protocol is log the clothes. And then there's also bags back there, so you can give people bags to bring stuff on. It's usually helpful to have that.
I'm so
I'm just so in
belligerent.
love with it. It's not even fun.
And then just an FYI, there is a side closet in addition to the actual back closet. In the hallway, there's a closet with a key and date.
Which is making a cycle. Sorry.
I know. We're almost done.
Sorry.
There's a side closet that has these things called blessing bags in it, and it's just like it's like a gallon Ziploc bag of socks and gloves and snacks, and there's boys and girls, so the girls has feminine hygiene products, the guys has nothing extra special in it. No, it doesn't have condoms in it. I wish it did. Speaking of condoms, there's always going to be condoms here at GLCC. In the front, there's a fishbowl of condoms. Anyone can take them. Okay, I'm going to let you read emergency mental health protocol yourself. I just put that in there because there's a lot. There were some incidents that had happened here. The only thing I'll say about that is when someone is experiencing a mental health crisis, the following options are available to you and to them. Call mobile crisis and telephone crisis resolve. 1-888-YOU-CAN, which is 796-8226. Resolve is the first number to have a client call who is in need of help or needs to talk with a crisis clinician or professional. So they can call Resolve or you can call Resolve. If you need to call 911 because the person is putting themselves or others in danger, please do so. You absolutely should call 911. Put the person in a safe space where they can't hurt themselves, where they can't hurt other people. Stay with them if they're suicidal, and call 911 and Resolve. And then some things that you guys are not expected to do is be able to do a 201 or a 302. So 201 is a voluntary admission to a psych unit, and 302 is involuntary commitment by a third-party person to the psych unit in a community hospital. And so we have had in the past people who needed to be 302'd, people who needed to be committed to the psych institution. It's a sad thing. You don't really want to do it, but remember, it's all about them. It's about their mental health and their well-being. I've also given you guys, just to read if you feel like it, core elements, the NIH's, is this NIH? No, SAMHSA. SAMHSA's practice guidelines in responding to mental health crises. If you feel like this would be helpful to read over, I found it pretty useful. It is a little bit long, but part of the expert panel who wrote this is Dr. Wesley Sowers, who is the most excellent psychiatrist. He is an advocacy group that works with kids in foster care or who aged out of foster care, and they come the second Wednesday of every month. And then Art Expressions is in art. I don't want to call it art therapy because they're not therapists. I'll call it art as therapy. So doing art projects, and yesterday they made space heaters out of
Clay pots.
Yeah, clay pots. It was really cool. Actually, there's one right over by the TV. And so they were able to draw on them or do whatever they wanted to do with Sharpie or paint or... Yeah, it was very cool. And so they will be coming every single Thursday from 1:30 to 3 and help these people who are here process some of the things they're going through art. And then Tuesdays, once a month, we also have... What is it called? The music. Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
I think her name is Jessica Lee. She runs the organization. And so I definitely know that there's going to be a jewelry making workshop. And then the music ones, there's African drumming, and I think there's a spoken word workshop as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening. Definitely encourage you guys to actually get involved whenever they're here. Okay. Before we move on, I just want to talk about some statistics. Page number 4. So these are actually wrong because since I wrote this manual, I finished my final report for the grant that gave us money to provide mental health services on